It's movie time and welcome to VisionCon with us. It's like I'm your host Grayson. How are you all doing? Hopefully well. And we are here with Mr. Chris Wilson. Hello Chris, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. It's a great day.
Excellent. So I was wondering, Chris, if you could tell our listeners all about yourself and about your background and how did we get to VisionCon?
Well, I'm an elementary teacher by day, but I write on the side, and writing has been a passion forever. As long as I can remember, I've been writing. And, since I'm from Hollister and from this area, they contacted me and said, hey, we'd really like to have some local artists come and be guests. And oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Yes. Yeah, how great that is. So that's how I got here.
Very fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your writing and writing style.
Okay, well, this is the Wards of Yassus, and it's a story about kids and teens who don't belong, who don't fit in, not just with society, but with their own families, in their own skin. They really don't belong, and they have been sent to this guy on the front, and it's his job to kind of help them find their way before they end up being slaves.
Very cool. And so it's actually a very inspirational story for a lot of the listeners in terms of that, for helping them to figure out the difference is actually good.
Yeah, to find hope where maybe you don't think there is any. And sometimes people, kids and teens especially, who are really struggling or who don't fit in with their own families, don't have friends, they sometimes don't see any hope. There's no flicker of light anywhere around them, except maybe that one person who sees it in them, and that's enough to help them kind of continue. And I like to tell stories that maybe aren't told that often, and I want to tell those stories. Those are the kinds of kids that I teach sometimes. They often will stick kids who are really struggling in my class, and because I can relate to them. So.
Were you also having a difficult struggle in school?
I was just a weird kid, that's all. I just didn't always feel like I fit in, and I liked my toys and I liked kind of nerdy things. And back in the '80s,
Yes.
you didn't really fit in. I had toys that I kept under my bed, so when friends that came over that didn't do that stuff didn't see it. But there was one kid who kind of liked that stuff still, and I don't know. I didn't always fit in.
Oh, which is great, because who really wants to?
Yeah, now I get that. I didn't then.
Yeah.
I didn't really. I wanted to. I didn't want to feel like a freak or weirdo or a dork or a geek or whatever. I wanted people to just like me. And sometimes I felt like they didn't. And, sometimes when that happens, you end up making choices that you probably shouldn't just so people will like you. And that's not really a good thing.
So is this also your first novel, or have you done other ones?
So I've done a lot of writing, but it's been more in the educational field. This is my first piece of fiction.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been very exciting. It took me about a year to write it. I kind of stumbled onto it, actually. I did some work for a publisher. A lot of my writing is in the world of comics and education. I wrote my master's thesis on that, and I have a blog about that. And so I've picked up some writing gigs for literacy textbooks, and I've written chapters on comics. Well, I had a publisher contact me and said, hey, I need lots of illustrators. I need an illustrator for some children's books that we're doing, and we're just looking for someone different. Well, I do know a lot of illustrators, and I found them one. About 6 months later, that publisher contacted me again and said, that really worked out for us. We really like that person. They're doing a lot of our books. And well, great. And, we were just talking, and I mentioned that I had a degree in creative writing. Oh, you do? Well, yeah. And, well, what do you write? Well, and I started talking about a story I'd like to write. And they said, well, that sounds great. We would like to publish something like that. Cool. And we talked, and I let it go for about 2 weeks. And then I contacted them again and said, now, were you really serious about that? Because if you are, I would like to write that. And so we talked about it, and it first started out as a graphic novel. So I wrote a graphic novel script, about 60 pages. And I sent it to them, and they go, all right, this is great. I love this. Let's do it. We ran into a snag because they didn't recognize how much that was going to cost. 60 pages, full color. Oh, my. And it's a small independent publisher. And ultimately, they decided that it wasn't fiscally feasible for them. So they were looking at just kind of, sorry. And I said, well, wait, what about something else? Well, you'd be interested in something else? I have a degree in creative writing. I can write.
Yeah.
Well, what about an illustrated novel? They said. I said, I will totally do that. You will? Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. They said, okay. They sent me the contract without writing a word.
Fantastic.
They just sent me the contract. It was like 2 days later, and I signed it and then started writing this script.
Very cool.
Yeah, which is also very lucky. Most people are not that lucky. It does not usually work that way. It was happenstance.
And it was a good happenstance, actually.
It worked out great for me.
So it's like, where do you see that this work will come into in the future?
So I have 3 books planned. Although, about a month or 2 ago, I started having ideas on maybe a 4th and where I might take that. So, but right now the contract is done in such a way that's fairly open, where as long as they want to keep publishing and I do, I can keep writing. So 3 books planned, maybe 4.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We're going to find out very, very soon if there's a 4th. There might be a 4th.
There might be a 4th. I have some ideas on maybe some children's picture books that could kind of go along with this that I think would be kind of fun, but we'll just see what happens.
What about taking it in towards, because a lot of children relate in terms of story as well. They relate in terms of graphic novels, because I know with our youngest, it's like him being dyslexic, he loves graphic novels.
Oh,
he loves
yeah.
the idea of having the picture go along with the story.
Oh, absolutely.
As well as comic books, things like that. Taking this into the next level of also, a lot of kids learn through gaming as well. Have you ever thought of crossing it into the gaming platform?
Oh, I think you could pretty easily. I have it's a pretty in-depth universe, so I think that could be done pretty easily. I've not had anyone approach me with that, but I would definitely be interested in that. I think it'd make a fun movie or even TV series. I know people love Game of Thrones, for instance. Fantasies kind of really come back. So to have something like a fantasy, a very realistic fantasy, but that would be appropriate for a younger audience also. I think that'd be really neat. That's very needed, I think.
It is very much so, because a lot of the audiences that are teens, younger, it's like they lean towards the violent games because they don't find something that's relatable enough for them.
Yeah.
In terms of that, if they had a positive that comes forward, what a difference that it would make.
Oh yeah.
In terms of environment.
Now there's fighting and bloodshed. This is fantasy. There's weapons.
Yes.
There's that just goes along with it. But I read it to my 5th graders, and they did great with it. Of course, now you can read The Hunger Games. I mean, that's kids killing kids. So,
yes.
Our ideas of what is appropriate for kids has changed over the years. But I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's like there's an evolution to it, but it's
Yeah.
also understanding that with The Hunger Games being a fantasy world as opposed to taking it into the reality realm.
Right. So there's always, with fantasy like this, there's always that 1 or 2 or 3 steps removed, which is that's helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I am looking so forward, though, to the next thing. Also, Chris, it's like, how do people get in touch with you on social media?
So the Wards of Yassus has a Facebook page,
Yes.
and I do as an individual, and then I'm on Twitter as well. J. Chris Wilson's on Twitter. So those are 2 best ways to do that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I look forward to being able to see that and seeing the next phase of the book number 2 to 4.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye. And we're back again with Movie Time. And hey, everyone, it's like we have another guest here from VisionCon, Samantha McMillan. Hey, Samantha, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, Samantha, can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Well, I am from Springfield, Missouri. I have a husband, 3 kids, been married 18 years, and I write books.
Very cool. we all love writing.
Yeah.
So, how did you wind up getting started into the publishing world?
Well, in the publishing world, it started with City of the Gods. And, when I first started writing, it was just one of those, I was just kind of doing it for fun. So it took me about 10 years to do it. But once I was getting towards the end, I thought, well, maybe this is good enough. We'll just see. And so I sent it off to a publisher friend of mine, and she's like, I love it. It's great. Let's do it. So since then, though, I've split from publishing with a publisher. I do it by myself now. It gives me a little bit more control over like the covers and who I get to pick as an editor and things like that. So I enjoy it.
Oh yeah, it's a lot more fun to be able to self-publish.
It honestly, it's really fun because I get to work with, like I said, my editor I've had for all of my books. She's wonderful. She knows how I write. She knows how I do things, and so she can look at me and go, "No, Samantha, this isn't going to work," or she goes, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome." So that's great. And then the cover designer I use, I've used her for all of my books, and I absolutely adore her. And she knows what I want, and so she can do it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the genre of the books. I'm a little bit familiar with them, but go ahead, tell everyone else.
They are urban fantasy, which means they're based in the here and now. I mean, you've got all the regular laws of the world and everything like that, but the fantasy part, they do have witches and angels and things like that are a little bit more on the paranormal side. So, but this series is about a girl from an ancient Mexican civilization.
Yes.
She is the only descendant, and the gods of that civilization appoint her to save the world from evil.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's in a nutshell. I mean,
Yes.
so it goes through her struggles of becoming the savior that she's supposed to be.
Very nice. And it's like, so when you're looking at the inspiration for writing it, where have you pulled the most in terms of that, in terms of your authorship or in terms of style of writing?
Style is just, it's kind of my own. I don't necessarily correlate how I write with another author. And as far as like the stories and the characters and where I pull ideas from, I pull them from everywhere. The characters all have some of my personality traits, just exaggerated a little bit more. And some of the incidents are things that I pull from other fiction stories. There's a certain scene in, I think it's the second book, that I actually pulled from a TV show, and made it my own. But my husband was like, "That's what you need to do. That's awesome." So I was like, right on, I can do that.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, yes, let's do this.
That's right. I can do that.
Yeah, it's like mine is behind the camera.
Yeah. So I mean, and you get ideas from like my husband or my children. I've got 3 teenagers, so I'm able to pull from quite a bit of people. So, and if I run into a struggle, I do ask my husband, where should I go from here? Or I ask the kids if I'm on the fence about what I should do. I ask them, give them kind of a, would you do this or would you do this? And whatever they tell me is what I usually go with.
And do you also use a lot of mind mapping techniques, as well as also in terms of moments before? Can you visually see the characters, or do you more auditorily hear the characters?
I see them usually. I can see kind of what they're doing and how they're going to react to certain situations.
So coming from that point of view also, it's like, could you see this coming into a graphic novel or into a gaming platform?
Gosh, I would love it to be a graphic novel. That would be awesome. And when you're writing, you always want something more than just the book. I mean, the book is great. I love my books. I love my characters. But seeing it in like graphic form, and how somebody else sees the characters, or, fingers crossed, a TV show or a movie, or those are the things where you're like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. But the books I absolutely love.
Oh, definitely, because it's like, look at, for example, with Joan Anderson. It's like we'll be interviewing her next week on Movietime in regards to that. So I mean, honestly, it's like it does happen.
Yeah. It's you just have to hang in there. It'll eventually go the way you want it to go. So, but I'm perfectly fine with the way things are.
Absolutely.
Here. I mean, it's amazing to just be here at VisionCon and be one of their featured authors. It's amazing. I never in a million years would have thought that. So,
no, definitely not.
when you get the call, they're like, "We want you to be here at VisionCon as one of our featured authors." Are you serious? I mean, you realize that I'm not like a huge best-selling author or anything. Oh no, we really want you to be here. So it's like, awesome. I'm ecstatic now. It's great.
Absolutely, and it's like also looking for. So how many in the series right now? These 3?
It's a trilogy, so it's just these 3 books. I am working on working on a couple of different books, a couple paranormal books, and then I have my short romances that I write, and so I do a little bit of everything. And in another few months, I'll have a children's book out.
Very cool.
So, yeah, I'm spread out everywhere.
And that's exactly it. Is being diverse,
That's
open
right.
to the
That's
market,
right.
and it's
Yeah.
like, and soon enough, who knows?
That's right. That's
It's-
right.
And also, so it's like, so what is our next future project to see from you immediately?
Immediately. It will probably be one of the stories that I'm working on. I'm writing a story about the 7 deadly sins. So that's probably the one. I'm further on that than anything else. So that's probably the one that'll come out next.
Very cool.
So, and I have a publishers that are like, as soon as you're done, we want to read it. So fingers crossed that works out great, and
Absolutely.
yes.
And most definitely we'll be looking out for that.
Absolutely, yes. Please do.
Yes.
and then buy those.
Yes.
And this one.
Yes.
And they're all available on Amazon on ebook.
Perfect.
So yeah. So if you don't like the print books, I've got ebooks.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of people are consuming in this day and age through ebooks.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like a lot. Even though yes, the novel is still being
Yeah.
carried with you. That's more of I carry it with me in the airport. But if I want to read on the bus, on the subway, it's like I
Yeah.
need an ebook.
Yeah,
with me.
yeah. I have, I grew up in the age of books, and so I really like my print books. But I understand the people who want their tablets and their Kindles and their Nooks. I understand that because you can have thousands of books in one little computer. But
Yep.
I stare at a computer screen all day. So when I come home and read, I want, something I can
Yes.
physically
Tangible.
hold.
Absolutely. And also, can you tell people how we can get in touch with you on social media?
I have a website. It's mcmillansj.com. You can also find me on Facebook at mcmillansj.com and Twitter, same thing, same handle. All you have to do is type in SJ McMillan and you'll probably find everything that I'm on.
Very cool. I like that.
Yeah, I made it very easy for people to find me.
Yeah, it's like my whole thing that I always say. It's like if you can't find me on the internet, you're not stalking me hard enough.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Thank you ever so much, Samantha.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful, wonderful con, and we'll see you down there.
All right, sounds good.
Welcome back to Movie Time here at VisionCon, and we are here with two fantastic persons, our author and our graphic persons. Would you love to introduce yourselves to our audience? Who are you? How did you come to be here?
I'm Roz Wickham. I'm the author of The Edge of Beyond, which is a sci-fi fantasy series.
I'm Alan Childers. I'm the lead concept artist for the Edge of Beyond characters in the world of Tion.
And we're just here to promote the book series with the first and second one, with the third coming out this October.
Wow, October already?
Yep.
Nice. So tell me, how did this concept come together?
Started back in '97, which will be celebrating its 20th anniversary this October. And basically I just wanted to create something that could be on the level of something like Star Wars. So as you can see, this is why we are trying to market it as a fully functional multimedia franchise, that hopefully
Yes.
someday maybe you can see The Edge of Beyond on the big screen. Maybe even something like IMAX in the next 5 years, who knows.
Have you thought of machinima as a platform for it?
Not yet, but we've got many other
Yeah.
mediums that we're thinking of right now, so kind of the sky's the limit for this project.
Very cool. And how did you come to be to join forces?
Well, in 2012, when I met Roz, we started to concept into a comic book format. We sat down and we started concepting the characters, the world, the technology, and bringing it to life. And Roz realized that he really wanted to tell the story in book form first. So we just have taken all these characters and put them onto the covers and the wonderful artwork and our standees, and we're trying to develop this into multiple different formats, and we're really having a great time with it.
It looks incredible
Thank you.
in regards to it. So also, tell me a little bit about how we can get you guys also on social media as well.
You can find us on Facebook, just The Edge of Beyond, or you can go to our official website, which is theedgeofbeyond.com, and you can see everything, pretty much what we do here, and see pictures of every event that we've done. And basically, you haven't heard the end of us, because we're just going to keep going with this until, the audience finally gets that movie on that big screen.
Fantastic, and I hope that we're also going to get an opportunity to be able to actually see it live for us.
Oh, yeah.
And be able to put it together as a team.
It'll be 20 years in the making this fall.
Well, you know what? It's like sometimes that's what the best projects are.
Yeah, and sometimes things just need to simmer and cook
Exactly.
a little bit.
Well, and also now we'll be able to get it out there. And
That's right.
So it's like right now you guys are opening up for rights and stuff like that to be able to do that, to be able to put it forward. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And have a wonderful one.
You too.
Yes. Welcome back to Movie Time, and we're back here at VisionCon Day 2. How are y'all doing? Hopefully you had a fabulous Friday and that you enjoyed the offbeat show that was there in our place. But we're here at VisionCon today, and we are here with an incredible author. Ezra, how are you doing?
Ezra Manus. I'm doing very well, thank you. Glad to be
Good.
here.
Hey Ezra, can you tell us a little bit about the books that you have and a little bit about you?
I'll do that. I'm retired to start with, so I've turned to writing as my passion. And I've written a 4-book series. It's a science fiction action adventure series. The first book is Third Moon Rising. It's a story set 200 years in the future when we have established a colony in another solar system. From that colony, a young spaceship commander detects another civilization not too far away that's dying off. So Earth becomes sort of the bad guy in this. They want to go dominate that civilization and take their world. The young spaceship commander and his team are not aware of that. They're sent there to find out why that civilization is dying off. So they've been kind of put at risk by this.
Wow.
So they face all kind of life-threatening situations, not the least of which is Earth finally decides we're going to kill them off and make martyrs out of them, blame it on that other civilization, and get support back on Earth to go take their world.
Very cool.
So it's kind of the story about that young commander and his team. They're really young. They have to mature quickly to face all these threatening situations, and the team grows throughout the story. It's their story about how they grow and face a lot of challenges.
Wow.
And there's a super artificial intelligence entity operating in the background that they don't know about, that's pulling some strings and helping them along in their effort to kind of do what's best for both civilizations.
Oh my goodness. So it's like as the story progresses along, we're finding more out about the team as well?
Yes, this gentleman here, he does succeed or I wouldn't have a series of course.
Nice.
But he evolves from being kind of a carefree fighter pilot jockey to being a wise man and a prophet. And this story is about his grandson. He calls his grandson in, he's on his deathbed. He tasks him to go counter a dark threat to all humanity.
Wow.
But the old gentleman dies before he tells him what the threat is. So he just knows where he's got to go at a specific time to begin facing the threat.
And you were saying that it's going to be a fourth book in the series?
It is fourth book. The third book here is called Virtual Ascendance. It's about this guy as well, the grandson. He actually changes throughout this book to become what I would call an after-human in intellect, and he's changed physically a little bit by his experience. So he can't go back to his wife, he can't integrate back in society. He feels like he's pretty grotesque.
Wow.
So they send him on another mission to look for other planets that could be occupied. And he immediately encounters some super entities that are godlike, and that's sort of the twist in this story. What would a godlike entity need of a mere mortal?
Wow. That is sounding quite interesting. And then it's like the next...
fourth book is about the granddaughter. It's really exciting end to the series. It brings things I've seeded throughout the other novels kind of to a head.
Okay.
Starting out back on Earth, and then facing a threat that is a threat to all living races, sentient races in the galaxy. It's quite a grand idea.
So this is good, and with that, it's like, so how do people, and why is it that you are actually doing this book?
Well, I decided a few years ago to dust these off. I lost my wife to a brain tumor, and decided to begin selling my books and donating the proceeds to the American Cancer Society. So I continued to do that since 2014 when the first book started selling. and we've raised a little over $7,300 so far through the sales of the books.
Very fantastic.
And how can people
Get
contact you?
in social media. How do they get you?
I'm on, I have an Arthur page on Amazon. It's www.amazon.com/Arthur/Ezra Manus. And they go there, my Arthur's page there. My books, you can search by name on Amazon. My 3 books will show up. 4th book will be there shortly.
Excellent. Thank you very
you.
much, Ezra, and have a
Appreciate it.
wonderful day.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Movie Time, folks. And here we are, day 2 at VisionCon, and we are here with Ben Reeder. How you doing?
I am doing great. It's been a great con. It's VisionCon's always a good con. This year just seems to be exceptionally great.
Excellent. So tell us all about yourself and how did this come to be?
Well, okay. I've always wanted to write. Always had a vivid imagination, and this all came to be actually as part of a game. We were creating characters, and the idea was to create a reluctant hero. And I created this character, and I came up with his backstory, and I liked it so much. I was like, I want to take this a little further. And I had recently read Jim Butcher's Deadbeat, which part of his Dresden Files. A great series, and I realized that he had a very unique voice. And I'm figuring if his voice makes him a New York Times bestseller, and it resonates with me, then maybe I can do this. Maybe I got a shot at this. So I sat down in 2005 and started writing. In about 2007, I actually had it finished. And through various other things, I finally got it published. Didn't do so well, and then I self-published it, and it just took off like crazy. And after that, after Page of Swords, the second book in the series, I quit my job, and it's what I do full time.
Very cool.
So, yeah, it's been a fun series to write. It's very, the main character's emotionally damaged, so he's complex, he's tough, he's vulnerable. It's an emotional series to write, and it has a very broad fan base. Young adults, men and women both love the series.
Very cool. And it's like also, so now that there is a 4th book, is there going to be a 5th in the series?
Yes, there's going to be a 5th, a 6th, a 7th, and an 8th, actually. The next one is going to be a series of short stories from other characters' point of view, and then the remaining 3 are going to be from the main character's point of view.
Now, I also see that you have a Zopak series.
Right.
So tell us also about the Zopak series.
Right, my Zombie Survivor series starts in Springfield. A friend of mine basically told me after I'd run a zombie game for him, you really ought to do a zombie series. So I did. It was actually my first self-published thing. It took off. And zombie stories, they're not well represented by the big publishers. So self-publishers usually do fairly well in that genre. And it did really well. It took off after one of the bigger authors mentioned it. Just said, hey, this guy wrote a book. You ought to go check it out. And before long, I had a pretty strong readership. It starts in Springfield, ends in Kansas City for the first one. Second one is kind of like MacGyver meets the zombie apocalypse, because he's in a strange place. He doesn't have a lot of his gear with him, so he's having to improvise a lot, having to make up a lot of stuff. And then the third one is him actually finally making it to where he was going in the first place. But along the way, it also explores themes of family and what makes up family, because he's having to teach his girlfriend's daughter how to be a good zombie hunter. So there's that bond that grows between the two of them as well.
So do you feel influences also from Darabont and from other ones too in terms of graphic novels? Who inspires both of these series?
Well, Joss Whedon is really my big inspiration for the Demon's Apprentice series, because he uses He used a lot of metaphysical things to stand in for things that kids run across every day. A particular thing for me is abuse. So the demon that owns Chance to begin with is a stand-in for abusive relationships that a lot of kids have to heal from, and they don't have a choice in those things. And goes to the values of friendship. Because Chance values his friends and his family. So those are and those are things that are themes for a lot in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series. As the Zombie series, one of my biggest influences that, oddly enough, is conspiracy theories. Because I look at all these conspiracy theories and I think, if even some of these were true, it would make for a fascinating story. So I built a lot of mine around a conspiracy within the zombie genre, because the zombie genre is very much also the pulp genre, like the old post-apocalyptic stories that I grew up reading as a kid. So it's kind of Yusu, the big specter was nuclear war. Now the big specter is the zombie. And so that's kind of where I went with that.
And also on the self-publishing route, it's like, do you find that also because with the publisher, they'll do a lot of guidance for you in regards to that. With the self-publishing route, did you find that it was a much more freeing route, or did you find that also in terms of it that you had a little bit more artistic freedom or control, or do you find that you still have that author and that relationship because to get it booked on shelf, so to speak, or butts and seats, as they call it in film?
Right, yeah. Well, with self-publishing, you have to master a lot of other skills that you ordinarily would not have to master if you're with a publisher. Because a publisher does all the heavy lifting in a lot of ways. Covers, editing, formatting, and things like that. As a self-published author, all that is on me. But that means I get paid more, which means I don't need as big of a fan base as a published author in order to actually go independent. I would only need to sell like 3,000 or so, books to have a very decent. Whereas you'd need like 30,000 if you were published through, because you only get like 10 or 12%. So it puts a lot of responsibility on you, but it does give you a lot of control. Now I learned though, as the author, my cover artist, she does a great job, and I learned this. The smartest thing I could ever do is just listen to her. She knows what she's doing. Every book she's done the cover for that I've listened to her on has done just great.
And so what does the future lie for you? Where is the next challenge that you would love to have?
Well, the next challenge I'm actually kind of already on. And that's actually breaking into publishing as a traditional author. I've got an agent. I just put a manuscript in for them because hybrid authors are learning to take some of the things from traditional publishing and apply those advantages to self-publishing. As a hybrid author, for instance, when I get published with a traditional house, my fan base will spread. That means that fan base will also discover the Demon's Apprentice series and the Zombie Survivor series, and that will mean that those get more sales. Even as my other series, that's being published, gets that.
1 second. We just gotta.
Yeah, I hear you.
What?
We gotta put them on pause. Yeah.
Right? That just.
Yeah, we can hear though through this. So it's like if you want to complete the.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did he pick it up? What was,
We were talking about the future of the projects and dealing with the fact that it's like. Yes.
Right. You have to edit, yeah.
Don't we just love editing? Don't you love editing?
No, I don't, which is why I invested in my microphone, so I don't have to edit as much.
Yes, well, you turned me on to that mic, which I'll thank you for, because it's like I'm sitting there going, okay, sometimes I just want to have something in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just doing one over there with
RJ.
Flash.
Yeah.
No, with RJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think he's done.
Yeah. And we're back.
Okay. With basically going traditional publishing, that increases my reader base, and that leads to other people discovering The Demon's Apprentice that I still will have control over, and that increases my income there. So by the same token, as that increases, that means the publishers look at me and go, yeah, we want more. And then that's some projects that I can go, here's the manuscript, you do the rest. And anything that broadens your readership, your readers are your goal. I mean, first of all, they're the reason that we write.
Yes.
Because I don't write into a vacuum. You've got to love your audience. Your audience has got to love what you do. And I'm a big fan of connecting with readers. I love having a day-to-day ability to contact or hear from or see my readers. A lot of it I do on Facebook and social media. I wouldn't mind getting big enough that, I have 1 million readers, there's no way I'm going to meet them all. But I'm still okay with, I've got 3,000 readers, and it's possible I've seen the face of every single one of them, But the other thing about being an independent author is a lot of my sales aren't like this. They're on this.
Yes.
They're electronic.
Amazon.
Amazon. I'm not in a single bookstore.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be, because that's a lot of effort to get into one bookstore. A publisher will get me into bookstores. That's their job, and that's somebody's, and I'm fully willing to let them do that. And that's a primary reason I would want to go with a publisher, is to get in the bookstore. But I'm not going to try and do it as a self-published author.
Oh, which makes sense, because it is actually.
I saw everybody eating breakfast like the whole time, and I'm like, no, be cool, man, be cool. Like, don't be that guy. Like, nobody else is bothering me now.
No. That's the kind of connection I go for.
Yeah, and that's the kind of connection that you want with your viewers.
Because that's the guy that's going to come by and buy the next book that comes out.
And welcome back to Movie Time, and we're day 2 at VisionCon. Hopefully that you're all enjoying yourself, and we are here with T.A. Roberts. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for coming to see me.
Well, we passed by these amazing books and wanted to know all about you and how did this come to be?
Well, the funny story behind how these got started is I'm in law enforcement. I'm a deputy sheriff for the Greene County Sheriff's Department. Well, one night a few of us officers were having coffee, and a friend of mine named Chris Sowards was a deputy at the time. He said, well, what will we do if zombies hit Springfield? So we all laughed about it. And he goes, no, seriously, what will we do? So we got to talking about emergency management plans, and I got a story idea out of it and ran with it. Now I'm 5 books in and still going strong.
We would so be eaten alive.
Yeah. Well, we realized pretty quickly that we weren't really adequate to the task.
Yeah. Either that or else we all buy trailers.
There is that.
Yes. And so tell us a little bit about how the story came through.
Well, I wanted to do
all of the book series.
I wanted to do a zombie series that was a little different than all the others. There's always been so many different iterations of the zombie philosophy, like the old movie Night of the Comet, where it was radiation from space and government conspiracies and things like that. Well, I wanted something that was uniquely my own. And I have a pretty extensive knowledge of Norse mythology, and I knew that the Norse have numerous names for the undead and are firm believers in it. So I wanted to blend the Norse mythology with the zombie uprising. And Ragnarok is the twilight of the gods. It's the Armageddon scenario for the Norse. And during Ragnarok, the Loki will lead an army of the dead out of hell against the world of men. And I'm like, well, there's my zombie apocalypse right there. So that's what I did. I started blending elements of the Norse, and it begins as in book 1 as a zombie apocalypse, and as the series progresses, you start seeing more and more of the elements of the Norse. So by book 4 and 5, book 4 and 5, it's more about Ragnarok than it is about the undead. In fact, I was once described on a website by book 4 and 5 that it's The Walking Dead meets Game of Thrones.
Very cool.
Which I was like, yes, that's a great compliment.
Yes, that lends itself to definitely a television series.
I would love to see this on the screen. That's the ultimate dream, anyway.
So when you're writing, also, it's like, talk about the characters themselves. How do they move you, compel you? Do you see them visually?
Well, I wanted the characters to be very human. I wanted them to be very real. So drawing on inspiration from my own life, I know a lot of amazing men and women in law enforcement, and I patterned a lot of the characters, not necessarily off any one person, but I took characteristics from people that I admire and respect to create these characters. So everybody I know that I've worked with over the years can look at these books and see pieces of themselves in these. So I want people to feel invested. I want these characters to not only feel like characters in a book, but I want them to be relatable as well. Mm-hmm. And I want people to not only enjoy the books, but to emote along with it, to feel the roller coaster of emotions that the characters go through along for the ride.
Do you also feel that a lot of your law enforcement background as well comes into these?
Absolutely. It's the main character is works for a small sheriff's department, which again I took that from the real world, but I wanted the character to express not only how first responders would react to a zombie apocalypse, but to show that even though it's the end of times, these guys still put on their uniform and they went out to try to help people. It's not just, oh well, the crap hit the fan, it's time to leave. They up until the very end are still trying to serve and protect. It's a calling that they're trying to help people even when the world's falling apart.
Very cool. And in terms of that, are you going to also write a book 6?
Actually, I wrapped the series up at the 5th, but I have plans for a second series of the Ragnarok series in the Ragnarok genre. This one was called Ragnarok Rising, and I ended it at the end of the fifth book. The second series is going to be called Wastelands of Ragnarok. It's dealing with the aftermath of the series, how they're trying to pick up the pieces once the zombies are done.
Very cool. So it's going to be like what happens to actually regenerate, survive.
Yeah, it's kind of like Game of Thrones meets Mad Max almost. It's going to be very post-apocalyptic, but they're going to be trying to pick up the pieces and rebuild.
So what else do you feel lies in the future for you in terms of?
Well, I also have a science fiction series out. Mm-hmm. I've got one book of that series out, and the second book should be out any time. We wanted to have it out for this convention, but we just didn't quite make it. Had some production schedules we didn't quite meet. So we're hoping to have that one out in the next month or so. But I've also got a fantasy novel in the works, and I'm hoping to expand not only from the fantasy novel, but my wife is going to be doing children's novels, and I want to help her with that as well.
Very nice. It's like, so you self-publish mostly, right?
Well, Darkwater Fiction is a small publishing company,
yes.
But it's us.
Okay.
We did it in-house. We created Darkwater Fiction ourselves.
Cool. And how do people also get you in social media?
I'm available on pretty much just about all the social media. I'm at D.A. Roberts, at D.A. Roberts Author on Twitter. D.A. Roberts Author is my author page on Facebook. Or you can send me a friend request on Facebook. It's just D.A. Roberts. And I have a blog on WordPress that you can find through my website, which is darkwaterfiction.com.
Oh, very cool. And are you also hoping that you'll see these on the shelf someday?
I'm seeing them in shelves in some places, and I'm starting to gain a little bit of momentum in that direction. There's a few bookstores that are starting carrying. Barnes and Noble don't keep them in stock, but they will order them, which is really a big deal for me to be featured by Barnes and Noble. A lot of libraries are picking them up, which is great, and I want people to enjoy the stories. I want them to read the stories. To me, it's always been about the stories. I've never wanted the spotlight on me. I wanted the spotlight on the books. Like, for example, J.R.R. Tolkien, one of my favorite writers, amazing writer. But if you took, a dozen pictures of older gentlemen, 9 people out of 10 couldn't pick Tolkien out of the lineup. But everybody knows the books. And that's what I want to go for. I want people to know the books. I want people to enjoy my writing. To me, it's about the writing and about leaving the books as a legacy for my children.
Very cool. And it was great to also meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Absolutely. So we are back again with Movie Time, and we are here at VisionCon Day 2. And we are here with the author of the Angst series.
Yeah, hi, I'm David Peterson. I'm the author of Angst, Buried in Angst, Drowning in Angst, and Burning with Angst.
So tell me about the Angst series.
Well, most of the fantasy books I read growing up were about younger people with great power and potential and no direction, and they meet a wizard and sends them on a path to becoming a hero. It's the hero story. Well, Angst is the guy that got passed up for all of that. He's in his 40s, he's going through a midlife crisis, and he knows the only way his life will be better is if he was a hero, like a knight in shining armor.
Wow.
So it's kind of a be careful what you wish for sort of story.
So, and how long, who's been the inspiration for Angst?
A lot of it, my wife says it's autobiographical. I swear I don't have a giant magical sword like he has in the book, so I won't admit to that, but it's drawn a lot from things that have happened in my life, not the magic part.
And also, so tell us a little bit more also about the story, how it came to be.
Well, so in this world where it takes place in Erda, magic is illegal and has been for thousands of years. And but every 2,000 years, a war of elements comes about, and the 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, and magic, all go to battle. And it happens at about the same time Angst gets his opportunity to become a hero, and that's when things kind of fall apart.
Oh, interesting. So at that point in time, it's really a toppling of the domino effect.
It is. It is a true grass is greener on the other side sort of story, where he thought it would be great being a hero and being a knight, and now things are a mess, and he's got to figure out how to fix them, and he's not exactly qualified for that.
No, it doesn't sound like he has all that much going for him.
But you do what you have to with what you've got.
Exactly. It's not using the forces against you, it's using the forces for you.
Exactly.
So it's also a hopeful story as well as it's going along?
It is. It's. I mean, there's humor. A lot of people write in their reviews that the story makes them laugh. And so, and I try to keep that sense of humor, kind of a gallows humor throughout the series.
Interesting.
But, and it's positive, but it's also got a dark aspect. You can't, I mean, the heroes, if it was easy, then anybody could do it.
True.
And then they wouldn't be heroes.
So, where would you like to see the novel go in terms of, in all the novel series? Is there another series that's coming up in there?
So, I'm working on the 5th book now, and when this series is done, I've got some other stories that I'd like to look into, and then I may revisit these characters one day. There have been a number of people here who have stopped by today to say, "Oh, the series is going to be done at 5, huh?" But I think it's important to end at a strong point. And some authors, they do a much better job than I would, but when the story becomes 20 or 30 books long, you can lose some of your original audience, and I would be concerned about doing that.
And also the evolution of the character, there's a point where the arc is done of that evolution.
There's only so much that they can do.
And then, so what inspired the actual starting to write?
I was in my 40s, and writing is something I've always loved to do, and I always wanted to be a novelist. So I really felt like it was a good time when I could settle down enough and calm down enough that I could actually write more than a page at a time and complete a full story. So I stuck to it and made it happen, and it's been a great adventure. But I think that feeling like I was meant to do something else was drawn from me. I mean, where I've done a lot of IT work and sales work and other jobs, they were never really what I wanted to do for my life. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yes. It's a very relatable subject in that sense. So it's like then writing became a passion for you.
It always has been, but I could never calm down enough to finish anything. So, but I guess age has allowed me to do that.
So what does the future hold for you on the next book series?
Well, that's a good question. I'm writing a short story now. Well, a novella. It's short for me. I've never written anything under 100,000 words. And I have a couple of other series ideas. right now I self-publish. I may look at working with a publisher for future books. I haven't decided yet. But it's all about finding my audience and going to cons and meeting people, and I get a lot out of it.
Who do you think also is your target audience with Angst?
You would think it's all like men my age, but it seems to be anybody from like 18 and up.
Mm-hmm.
I know numerous high school students who have read the book because they come up to me and they're like, "I loved your book." I'm like, "You read it?" So, it's got a broad audience. I mean, it's not young adult because it's targeted towards older people.
Mm-hmm.
That's who the story's about. But at the same time, while there are some adult situations, I mean, there's like no sex. I mean, there's adventure, but it doesn't get to be too gory. And
yes.
So it can be read by, it's like PG-13.
Okay, so it's good for a lot of audience ranges.
Very much so.
That way. Also, how do people get you in social media?
I'm on Facebook, and my website is www.gotangst, like got milk.
Yes.
Gotangst.com.
Okay.
And my Twitter handle and my Instagram and my Facebook are all Got Angst as well.
Very cool. So we look forward to also hearing and seeing the next set of books. And are they available also as ebooks?
They are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Google and Apple and all of those great stores and others as well.
Fantastic. It's a pleasure meeting you and having the chance to be able to chat with you.
It was nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for the time.
No problem. Take care. It's movie time, and we're back again with Movie Time, and we're here at the Vision Con for day 2, and we are here with author Lisa Medley. Hey Lisa, how are you doing?
Good to see you.
And also Allison, how are you doing?
Doing great.
Excellent. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey? How did we get here with the books and with everything like that?
Okay, I started with this one, 2012. This is my first novel, and I actually started out with a publisher. My publisher went under, so I self-published, and everything I've got on the table is self-published. I've been with Kensington, Sam Payne, a couple different publishers, and I like going the indie route, so here I am with all my indie books.
Very cool. And yourself, how did you also
I started in 2012. I wrote this book, Reap and Repent. I actually entered it into a Harlequin So You Think You Can Write contest. Out of 700 global entries, I made it to the top 28. And then sadly I lost. But I still got a book contract, 2 book contracts out of it. And eventually they gave me those rights back, and I published them, indie published them. And that started. This is a Supernatural. Supernatural is my jam. You can't tell from my buttons. So this series was inspired by that. It's dark urban fantasy. Reapers are the heroes, angels, demons, classic struggle of good versus evil.
Very cool.
Yeah, and the first one is actually free to download on all the retailers.
So including Amazon?
Amazon, Kobo, Nook, everything.
So what inspired you guys to start writing?
I've always been a writer. My very first story was Sally is my dog, and so I was like 3. So I've always been writing, and I stopped. My dad died in 2003, and it just broke my heart. I love my dad so much, and I stopped writing. I didn't write anything again until 2008, and I just thought it was so deeply ingrained in me. I could not write.
And you have how many books now?
I just finished my 17th novel.
Very cool.
I have 7 books. I have a few to go to catch up with her. I'm 3 in this series. I have a sexy sci-fi adventure series called The Cosmic Cowboys. The version of that is based Cowboys and Indians. There's a time travel element in it. I've also got a paranormal romance called Haunt My Heart. It's a modern day ghost story with a Civil War hero. And then my latest has been Shifted in Seattle. And this is a Sasquatch shifter story. And all the Bigfoot mysteries and questions you have shall be answered in this story.
Very cool. So in terms of your writing styles, who do you say are your most influences?
One of my very favorite books is Shepherd of the Hills by Harold Bell Wright, and I knew as soon as I saw that play, I had to read the book. I read the book, and it very much inspired me. I also have a romance writer. Her name is Roseanne Bittner, and the first time I read a romance by her, I was like, I want to write romance. I love everything that's going on in it. So everything has a romance story in it.
I think my writing style is probably most like Charlene Harris, who wrote the Sookie Stackhouse series of books that the show True Blood is based on. Mine are not written in a first person, but my style is big compared to that. What got me inspired to write was I never read a paranormal romance until one of my friends suggested Aaron Ward's book Dark Lover. It's a vampire book. So I read that on a plane on vacation, and when we landed on Sanibel Island, I immediately went to the bookstore, the used bookstore, to try to find the next book in that series. It wasn't until later I found out I was reading romance, but I was hooked, and I read probably 100 romances that were paranormal romances that next year, and every time I thought I could do this, and finally I just did it.
Also, is there any words that you would say to somebody who is actually beginning their writing career as well? Because it's like a lot of people, it's like they're scared to write their first book. Oh my God. So what words of inspiration would you guys give?
It's very scary, and it's not for the faint of heart. You got to have a lot of guts to get out there. But if you just sit down, and even if you write 100 words a day, if that's all you can get out, you do it. Just try your best to sit down and type it out. It took me 2 years to write my first book, so you just have to sit down.
Just don't be afraid to do it, because just start wherever you are. If you have a scene in your head or just a kernel of an idea, just get it down, and then that's going to lead to the next thing and the next thing, and then just keep making words. Because once you've got the words down, then you can get help in some of the writing groups. We're members of a group in Springfield called Ozarks Romance Authors. It's open to all genres, but the cheat group, we both participated in that, and let others give us advice, and then listen to that advice, and just keep writing. You can do it anywhere.
Very cool. And also, how do people get in touch with you guys on social media?
Facebook, Allison Merritt on Facebook, and then I also have a blog. It's halfnovelwilledit.blogspot.com. So I'm on Twitter at Allison_Merritt.
I'm all over social media also under my name, Lisa Medley. I have a fan page, Facebook fan page. I have a website, it's lisa-medley.com, and I'm Twitter everywhere. We're cyberstalkers all over the place.
Excellent. And just like myself. Yeah. I always, like I said, my little thing is if you can't find me on the net, you're not stalking me hard
You're
enough.
not trying. Yeah. Exactly.
And also, it's like, so what future projects or genres are you guys looking to?
I've got a box set coming out. It's a contemporary cowboy romance, and we've done very, very well at those. They're very popular. I really enjoy writing those. I've also got, this is the first book. It's coming out 3/7/17. So I think I'm going to do some more in this set.
I hope so. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. And then I've got Brian's coming back from another series, so I'm going to republish those, and I'm very excited about that.
What series that is?
It's called The Heckmasters. I've got brand new covers. They're gorgeous, and I'm going to share them on my social media pretty soon, so I'm very excited about those.
Very cool.
And I plan a fourth book. The fourth in this series is going to be Reap and Reckon, and I've got about 10,000 words written on that, so I know, I'm going to keep working on that. I keep getting requests for that. And then I've got a third in this series called The Magnet's Moon. So this is kind of loosely based on a Richard Branson-esque character who wants to, have space travel and basically build a hotel on the moon.
So kind of like an Elon Musk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kind of a mashup.
Yeah, very cool. It's like, I'm looking forward to seeing these and seeing more of what you're doing also on social media.
Sounds great. Looking forward to meeting some new readers.
Excellent. And now you know 20,000 other people who will be knowing about you.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Take care. It's movie time, day 3 at VisionCon, and we are back again here at VisionCon, and we are talking about Charlie 13. It's like a brand new comic series that is completely brand new to all of you, and hopefully will be on your shelves as fast as the Max in all of the DC world. This will be the new world. And I'd love to introduce you to both the graphic designer of the comic and the writer of the comic. Would you love to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Christopher Harris. I'm an artist from Kansas City.
My name is Chris Burgess, and I'm actually from Lebanon, Missouri. I'm one of the co-writers of Charlie here. Our other co-writer is around here somewhere. I don't know where he went off to, but it's fine, it's massive.
He just didn't want to be on camera. So, Harry, so tell us a little bit about the inspirations behind both the artwork and the comic book itself.
The comic itself we came up with is, we keep describing it as it's kind of a love letter to the Old West. Even though we have, it's, robots and we've got some aliens, alien invasion and such, but it really comes down to an Old West story. We've got our protagonist, Charlie, who's this robot on the cover of the comic. He, it's kind of like a lawkeeper, like the old Clint Eastwood type character. And he's here to make sure that the aliens that came and kind of decimated our western United States stay in line, pretty much. So that's what that comes down to. As for the art, we found Chris online and looked at some of his art that he had and just fell in love with it. Thought it was awesome. He already had something that was kind of old western and had just a really nice feel to it. We love his art, so that's when we found him and contacted him. And what did you think?
Yeah, I loved it. I had this script, and after it came in, I messaged the guys, and I'm like, is this the first comic you've written? And I could tell they're like, oh, he thinks it's crap. And I'm like, no, I loved it. I'm like, this is something straight up my alley. And so I immediately was like, yeah, I have to do this with you guys. So it was a great, beautiful start to that. And I'm always inspired by these South American artists that they have a love for Westerns that, like, Americans, it's just kind of native to us, like we like Westerns. And so I kind of was inspired by just more detailed and more like just value, like the value range to be a little stronger than most of these post-apocalyptic stories. So,
and even though it's post-apocalyptic, we made sure with him, he made sure that even the color palette is just, it's much different in our comic. It's not as drab, and it doesn't have to be black and white and dingy. Like there's color in it, and it can still be, a post-apocalyptic story.
And also in terms of that, it's like this is a lovely also rendition of art. So tell us a little bit about the inspirations also behind that as well.
So this is actually from it used to be self-published. I just got it published last year, but I'm fascinated by like just folklore by all parts of the world. And this is a Slavic creature called the Yggdrasil. And it's the tree of life, but really it's actually a big tree, but I've always been inspired to make it like a more personable looking thing, and so I like to make these illustrations of little fellas coming and meeting these monsters. And like within the picture, there's tons of little details that most people don't really, they look at it and they see a pretty picture, but I have like faces of people that are inside of it and just weird little things. So there's like a poem written on some of the bark and just
very
fun things
cool.
like that. Yeah.
And it's like also you've transferred some of also that graphic feel into the new animation.
Yeah, and like the book, there's a lot of things that I wanted to make it where just on a surface level you could look at and people are going to think it's pretty. But if you actually inspect the pictures, there's a lot of like cool harmonies between the page layouts and like, some of the finer details that you kind of have to inspect to really appreciate.
So where do you think that you'd like these to go? Where do you see Charlie 13 going?
It's hard to always tell where something's going to go. I mean, we would love to just get published. This weekend we've sold quite a few copies so far, and we've gotten a lot of love for it. And it's been really awesome to have some validation on it. And I know while everybody, you want your stuff to be successful, we would love this to be our job. I would love to be able to quit my day job and write. That's something I've always wanted to do, and I know Finest has too. And but at the end of the day, I mean, success would be great, but I would just love to be able to do this. Getting the love we've gotten from everybody who's been saying, hey, I read it, I really like where you're going. That's been awesome. I don't really know how to say where I'd like to be in the future, but I do know I'd like to finish out this story and collect it into a bigger one and get it published by a bigger publisher, get to a bigger audience, and really get us out there. We've got a lot of ideas that we'd love to explore. So
very cool.
Thanks.
So by the way, how do we also reach you guys on social media?
Oh, we've got a Facebook page that's just Charlie, how you see it here, the CHARL 13. I know it's kind of weird, but we've got that. There's been, wow, what else do we have social media-wise?
I post a lot on
There's
Instagram. My
yeah.
personal art profile I put on there too. And I have a website that I plug us in all the time.
Yeah. Mainly it's Facebook, I think, is our big thing. We're always on there trying to keep things updated, trying to keep people in the know.
Mm-hmm. And I look forward to seeing more on this and seeing like where it's going to go.
For sure.
Thank you. We hope you guys look forward to it too.
Absolutely. And seeing more of also that artwork too, because that's
Thank
also
you.
really incredible stuff.
Thank you.
He's awesome.
And welcome back to Movie Time, day 3, which is unfortunately our final day at VisionCon today. And we are talking with William Schlichter of this wonderful new series of books that we are about to find out. Hey, William, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. So tell us all about this and you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I've been a writer since I was like 3.5 years old. I wanted to write a book way then, and then in the last couple of years, I got my master's degree from MSU and wrote an episode of The Walking Dead, which unfortunately will never get made into a TV series or an episode because it was written for a script contest, and Walking Dead people don't read it. They don't want to be accused of stealing your ideas. But I took third place in the Broadcasters Associating Script Contest, and I springboarded that, and I started my own zombie series, which has nothing to do with The Walking Dead, but I wanted to focus on characters who were more intelligent and didn't have some of the same issues and were surviving, because a lot of times you see a lot of dumb people running around.
Very true.
Yeah, and they crash cars for no reason when there's no zombies on the road whatsoever. Lori, from Walking Dead. And I wanted to see what it would do, and I also wanted to deal with people. Like it seems like zombies happen and the world stops. Like world problems stop. So one of the main characters, there are 3 in this book. He's a St. Louis police detective, and he's chasing down the serial killer that killed his daughter before the zombies happened. And I wanted to continue on with like, well, what would a serial killer do during the zombie apocalypse, other than probably flourish? So they're chasing him down, and again, some smart characters that survive, that find a way to keep the power on, and do quite well.
Very cool.
Yeah. And actually, the second one in this series will be out May 19th, so I'm really excited about that.
And what is the second one in the series going to be?
It's going to be called 400 Miles from Graceland, and it'll continue on. I wanted to explore a little bit, spoiler, but I wanted to see what would happen if there was a natural disaster and then the zombies happened.
Okay.
So I won't tell you what the natural disaster was. The story is set in Missouri, because a lot of times we forget the Midwest happens. It's like everything's in Los Angeles or Paris. Don't go to Paris. If the aliens invade, you'll get blown apart. You know?
Very true.
Or New York. The Statue of Liberty is always taken out. So I wanted to explore things and locations in Missouri as far as, because I think it's different. And you see things that places you know and recognize, especially with that.
And so also you as well also have a second book series as well, too.
Yeah. This is my science fiction series. This one I actually started writing in high school, a long time ago. And actually, the second one of that's out next week. And that follows a group. Of characters who are working kind of secretly for the government in the future, trying to prevent a civil war. It's pretty complicated but they want to prevent this war, and in the process of preventing this war, they release creatures from another dimension into our reality. I describe it kind of as a Buck Rogers meets Freddy Krueger.
Nice.
Or for younger viewers, maybe like Han Solo or Malcolm Reynolds encounters Freddy Krueger, because you got to know who Freddy Krueger is. I mean, come on. So there's these mind-drinking monsters from another dimension that come in. That's sort of where the book ends and then picks up with the second one. And it has a very strong female protagonist, because that's one thing that's great about sci-fi. The gender roles don't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. And it's like...
No.
And so you were saying that you also have a theater background of getting also into both the zombie series as well as the series as well.
Yes, I went back a couple years ago and got my master's from MSU in theater, and I went ahead and took all the courses to get the screenwriting certification, and I wrote that Walking Dead episode, which did very well in competition, and then I wrote a movie which I've placed in multiple screenwriting competitions as a finalist. And it is actually horror. It follows a character who kidnaps pregnant women.
Yes.
And steals their babies and sells them on the internet. And it's quite horrific. And I'm working on trying to sell that and hopefully see that in film.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I like the horror genre, but I like sci-fi. And this one's not super scary, but I really dip into that sci-fi action adventure type element, and I wanted to again explore something a little different. My character's like the traditional trope. He's from the past, he's brought to the future, but he doesn't all of a sudden magically know how to fly a spaceship. As much as I love Buck Rogers, and he's a pilot, but seriously, come on.
Exactly.
There's a difference between an F-15 and a spaceship.
Yeah, and also, so it's like I'm looking forward to actually reading both of these series.
Well,
they sound very fascinating.
Well, thank you.
In terms of that, and also, how do we get you in social media? So then that way people can actually find these books and find you.
Well, if you can spell my name, I am on Facebook. It's SCHLICHTER. You can find them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Come to a con. I'm at lots of cons this year. You can follow me on Twitter at W Schlichter on Twitter. And I'll talk. I teach creative writing. I love to talk about writing and books and science fiction of all genres.
I would love to have you on future episodes
I would love
as well.
to be there. Yeah, especially great. Thank you.
Thank you, and it was a pleasure talking with you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.